Welcome to OM Report by Andre Alpa, your interview-focused podcast on topics from online marketing to internet startups.
Hi Derrick, can you introduce yourself to us, please?
Sure. My name is Derrick Wheeler. I'm my title is informally Senior SEO Architect at Microsoft.
Okay.
Formally, it's Senior Product Intelligence Manager.
Okay.
My role is really around ensuring that our global portfolio of properties at Microsoft are optimized as much as possible for organic search.
What qualified you to get this job? What have you been doing previously, just out of curiosity?
Sure. The only career I've ever known is internet marketing and mostly SEO.
Okay.
So in around 1997, I started doing link building campaigns for sites, and it was before it even really mattered for search. And then the company I worked for, the founder really had enough foresight to see that SEO was going to be a big deal. And he paid Danny Sullivan to come down and train like 6 of us. And that's when I got started in SEO. And then that company was acquired, moved out of town, and then I started working remotely for another internet marketing company. And then I got another job at an internet marketing company. And then so after a while, I had around 11 years of working on SEO and link building and that kind of thing. And then I thought, I'm working on the agent. Oh, go ahead.
On the agency side, you were on the agency side, not on.
I was on the agency side for 10, 11 years. And then I thought, won't it be easy to just optimize one website? Don't have to worry about all these clients. And I felt like, the salespeople would just sell and then trying to live up to all the promises of getting things done on time just became really difficult. So I thought, I'll just go to one company and do SEO. And little did I realize that Microsoft has hundreds and hundreds of individually managed web properties and all these content management systems. It really is like being an internal SEO agency, even though we're not set up that way. So
okay.
It wasn't.
So you're dealing with more websites now than when you were on the agency side of things.
There's more web properties in our portfolio than there were clients that I had. So
okay.
It was a bad move in that regard, but it was a good move in pretty much every other way.
So just to clear up its understandings, you're not taking care of Bing and what search results happen in Bing, but it's that all the properties that Microsoft has, how they appear in all different kinds of search engines around the world.
Yep, all search platforms. We want to show up in anywhere someone that we think would benefit from coming to our site. We want to be where they're searching.
When you look about the keyword portfolio you guys are looking after, you kind of regularly monitoring across most of the websites, I would guess that most of them are like mostly branded search terms that you're taking care of, and it's more like a reputation management attempt. Are we really being found where people are really searching one of your products? And it's less that you're trying to get generic terms like download software, which could be, other results could be interesting there as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the unique things about Microsoft is we have such strong brands that a lot of times our branded search phrases will have 100 times more searches than the non-brand equivalent. But what we do want to focus on, and we've been getting better at, is focusing on non-brand, because even though the volume's less, it's very strategically valuable for us to get in front of people that may not know that we offer a particular solution. And even something that's branded, in some cases when people are searching for specific support issues, there's other third-party support sites that show up that would charge people for support that maybe we have on our site or in some forum for free.
Right.
Is
the same actually also with software that like a different site would appear for software that charges that for software that you offer for free? Does it also happen, or is it mostly for support issues? It doesn't happen in a download space. Yeah, it's more in a support space.
Yeah, I think most of we have the download center, and all those downloads are free. Then we have like apps, Windows 8 apps and phone apps, and some of those are free and some aren't. But so it's not really relevant in that case.
Okay. So you were discussing some very interesting things, because the properties that you manage, they're active in a lot of countries and a lot of languages. You were quoting some of the problems that you have there. I think like when two countries share a common language, like with French, where you have French Canada and France, or with Portuguese, with Brazil and Portugal. How do you deal with those things, and what kind of problems do actually happen, and how do you try to deal with them, and how successful is that? If you could share it.
Yeah. So we have a lot of overlapping content that's in language, and we don't have our site set up optimally for the markets. We don't use the country level top domains like .ca, .co.uk and those, and that's like an ongoing long-term issue that I have yet been able to successfully move the needle on. So what we have done, though, is we've moved to, at least within all the major domains and subdomains, to the same model for international. So it's always the top level directory. It's always en-us, for example. It's always lowercase. Everybody's starting to do that, and and we can use the Google Webmaster Tools to geo-target, and anywhere else that Webmaster Tools that allows us to do that. But there's a certain point where I don't necessarily have my role does not involve getting into the individual, like building links from that country internally. So that would be up to that individual subsidiary or international site, or the folks that are doing digital marketing there, to come up with, how can they get more links internally from other similar country sites and create more signals to help them. But we're somewhat limited in what we can do there, but we still want to track it.
Do you educate? So is it like the case where do they come up to you and ask, like, I don't know, like the French subsidiary asks, hey, Derrick, what can we do? Or do you have like best practices? So is it more like a pull or like a push? What is it usually?
We have a URL, international URL policy. But policy adoption or alignment is enforced at the GM level. So if that particular GM doesn't enforce the policy, they don't have to follow it. There's no like repercussions.
I was asking whether mostly people come up to you with questions. So the French subsidiary asks, what links should I put and where, or is it mostly you try to push them? Hey guys, you're not ranking for this branded term that you should rank for, and you could do, for example, X, Y, Z, and then they try to do it. So what does it usually look like? More like a pull or a push of
it's both.
SEO issues?
I will get people coming to me all the time. I mean, people will come because we're Microsoft. And we have our global address book. I can look up anybody's email address. I can search for Bing and find people at Bing and email them. So a lot of people at Microsoft that don't do SEO, they don't know that Bing can't really give out like specifics. So everybody at Microsoft that writes to Bing to get SEO help, they send them to me. So it'll be subsidiaries saying, hey, I'm getting all of this content for France showing up in my Canadian search engines. How do I deal with this? And then we'll find out, what they've done to date, and maybe give some recommendations, and then it's up to them to implement them.
But the problem may be that it's two different subsidiaries, so they would both have to, implement hreflang, and that's like kind of two different GMs that have to decide on that. Is that correct?
Well, that would be more like the site manager, and it may be that they don't have another release scheduled for 3 months, and they can't get it in, or maybe there's some limitation with the content management system where they can't add that particular code in there. There's all kinds of issues we have to go with, and then there's the occasional. I did a search for, I think it was Surface, our tablet at Google US, and it's top result, but then 2 below it is Canada. So we needed to make sure that the Surface site was actually geo-targeted in Google, and it wasn't. So we did that, but at the same time, I'm looking to see, I look in our analytics and see how many people that are going to the Canadian market site are actually in Canada and France, and hopefully after some time, maybe we'll see that decrease a little bit.
So you monitor these kind of things every month, just to, just like somebody else just monitors keyword positions, you also monitor this kind of stuff?
Yep, I have reports that I've created that I get on a regular basis, and I like to look at some of the key properties that we have, and then I also look at every Microsoft site.
Is there actually a term for it when people like from the wrong country end up on the wrong content?
I call it
because I know this phenomenon.
I call it locale accuracy.
Local accuracy.
Locale accuracy.
So if it's accurate, if like it's a perfect fit, and it's a less percentage of accuracy if it's like a mix of countries that visit a certain content.
There's always going to be some mix. It's never perfect, and then sometimes people are in Canada and want to see the France side. They're traveling, so there's always going to be a little bit. But when it's a big mix, I think and I don't have a KPI around this yet, like in my commitments or my goals. But we just launched a new web analytics platform at the end of last fiscal year, and we're still starting to get all the data and build our reports. But I do want to have one that shows market accuracy. So it would basically have for Canada, 80% of the traffic that's coming in to the Canadian market site is in Canada. And their browser settings are for whatever. So we can see
language.
Yeah, we can see where they're at when they do the search and come in, what market they're coming in on, and then what their browser settings are. So we can kind of get a feel for what's the right.
So you would probably even have to look at this accuracy thing not only at country level, but also like languages within country level, right? Are the Canadians guided to the English content in Canada?
Yeah.
Are the French Canadians guided to the French content within Canada?
Yeah. And right now it would just be mostly me collecting data and looking at it, because there's not necessarily a ton I can do to fix it until we start doing things like until we get to a point in our CMS where we can start to enable some of those different tags or change up URL structures for sites that are on an old structure where it's en/US way at the end. Because we're basically right now we're trying to get everybody unified in templates, in the components that we use, the design framework of the sites, trying to get more to a one Microsoft look. And then international would be a big part of that.
Okay. So do I have to imagine your job as being running around as this crazy preacher and teacher, let's unify it, it really works and it gives us this and this changes? Do you usually run around with best cases to convince people, or what? How do you convince people? Or it's just are you, I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't run anywhere.
Okay.
Basically. My wife's a runner, I'm not.
Okay.
But I live in Bend, Oregon. I work from home.
Okay.
So everybody else is all around the world, and a lot in Redmond, Washington, and Seattle. And my role is really around kind of the overarching framework and strategy and approach for SEO at Microsoft. And then a lot of the different business groups like Office and Windows and Xbox and MSN have their own small in-house SEO teams.
Okay, so
I work with them. So I'll look at things and I might find something that I think is an issue that could have a big impact, and I'll reach out to someone like Gilda Lodahl who's in Windows and say, hey, Gilda, I think I found something that might help you in your objectives or commitments, do a better job, or I noticed in your Google Webmaster Tools you had a big spike in this or that, 404s or something.
All right.
So my job is really about evangelizing SEO at Microsoft and educating people, and we do a lot of different programs and events where we educate people and guide.
So you would bring in the different in-house SEO teams that are there for the different platforms in the different countries and try to get them all together and try to teach them and unify KPIs or URLs or whatever? We have
a summit every year.
Okay.
It was called the XMS SEO Summit, which is SMX backwards, but it also means cross Microsoft.
Okay.
And now we've combined it with another digital marketing conference internal at Microsoft, and we have between 300 and 500 attendees.
Wow.
It's a
all care about SEO.
All care about SEO, all from Microsoft.
Wow.
And that's a big event for us every year. It's usually in the spring, and we have 30 plus speakers, over 20 sessions. We have 3 tracks for 2 days.
Wow.
And then the first day this last year was more of a general digital marketing a day.
Okay.
We had 2 years ago, we had Danny Sullivan and Vanessa Fox keynote. Last year we had Rand Fishkin and Brian Carter. I don't know if you know him. He's hilarious.
So basically you set up an SEO conference.
It's an internal, like a PubCon.
Right.
And it's 95% speakers from Microsoft.
Okay.
And it's awesome. It's a huge community building, and we all get together and talk about issues.
Nice.
A lot of times the URL structure and things are dictated by other people, so we try to influence. It's a lot of influence. It might be a particular site that's on a platform, different platform, and their file structure is their URL structure relies on their file structure. So in order to change URLs, they have to change all their files. So those kind of things. That's why if we
not easy decisions to make.
Yeah, if we unify to a single CMS, and one of the things our team does, I'm on a team called MS-Com, and we build out or enable solutions that we try to get other business groups to adopt. And
so that in order for them to buy in, they have to be involved in the process of the development, I would guess.
A lot of times with CMS, we have a lot of folks from different groups defining the scenarios and putting in their requirements, like something big like that. We have to have a lot of people involved, and the team that's running that is fabulous because I couldn't do that myself. I couldn't get 20 people and take all their feedback and try to make this one thing like apply to everybody. But they're really good at that, and I think we're going to land it this year, next year, and that's going to be huge for us to have a single platform.
You mentioned you're working from home. How do you manage that? Do you have like a separate, entrance to the house where there's only you and your computer, or do you do it like in the middle of the living room? How does it work? And how often does it make you travel?
So I go up to the Seattle area once or twice a month.
Okay.
And even if I was up there, a lot of my meetings would still be on phone or link or whatever, because it's a lot of global folks. Right. Most people are in different buildings than I'm at that I work with outside of my core team. My manager is in LA, so we're used to working remote. He and I, and half of my career I've worked remote.
Wow!
So I'm used to it. There's downsides. I don't get caught up in any like politics.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes I go to campus and I'm like, what, who said what about who? Like what? I didn't know this was going on. So I don't have to deal with those kind of things. Like I'm pretty clear-minded. I can drive my kids to school and pick them up, and I work from anywhere. I tell people that I work from home, but I don't. I work from coffee shops. I work from friends' houses. I work from my parents. I mean, I can work from anywhere, and I'm used to it now. At first, it's kind of hard to focus, but I can work from anywhere. The only time I have problems is phone calls. I usually have to schedule my time at home with phone calls.
So it's quiet around you. You're not distracted.
But I have a bonus room above the garage.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest rooms in the house. My wife, when she wanted to buy this house, she used that as a selling point for me. And now that we have kids, she's trying to take it away and want to make it into more of a family room. Okay. I'm like, no, I need this big office.
Okay. Probably just one more thought. So, what did you already have some opportunities to play around with hreflang, and how did it play out for you, or are you not there yet on testing?
I'm not there.
Okay.
Individual sites like Windows is there. I haven't really gone.
Is it playing out for them? Do you know that? Do you have that?
I haven't talked to her about that.
Okay.
That's the problem. Is I feel like I should know the answer to everything, and there's simple things that after 6 years you'd think I'd know the answer to.
No, I was just curious.
But no, and I'm not. It's not. But yes, we do. We have had great success.
Wow, amazing.
But and that's something that I should focus on. And there's two of us on the team. And when Darwin, his name's Darwin Wheeler. It's just kind of a funny coincidence. We have very similar names. He's taking over a lot of the global stuff, the international. So I would think he's just awesome. He has 11 years experience at AT&T Wireless, and he's a very seasoned SEO, and he's really good at understanding like the buy cycle.
Seasoned and new experienced? It was just seasons. Sorry, I was because I'm not a native. It sounded to me as it's not a.
Oh, he's very experienced.
Okay. Sorry.
And he's seasoned, like he's like a nice seasoned steak.
Okay.
Ready to. But what's great is he also has global experience.
Okay.
So, and when we have to break out our work, I tried to give him the things that were the most difficult and challenging, so I could just relax and go to the beach. And international was one that I think he's better on.
So international would mean break his head how to rank in Yandex and Baidu. Is that kind of a problem?
Yeah, and we don't really get that specific. We do have points of views on those kind of things that we publish and that people can read. But what we do, we don't necessarily get that specific.
Okay.
Most of the time, what we recommend are best practices, things that apply to any
very
property.
General.
Yeah.
It would actually make sense for every website to look at your suggestions because they're so general.
Yeah.
So they're not even Microsoft specific.
Yeah, most of them are, unless it's platform specific.
All right. So for certain CMS that are often used within Microsoft.
I'm sorry?
For certain content management systems, they're often used within Microsoft specific?
Yeah. There's some that are off the shelf. I don't even know what those are, but there's a lot of internal ones. One's called Bedrock. One's called MS-Com CMS, which is the one we're building. One's called CSP. We've got SharePoint sites.
Okay. So you say, okay, if it's a SharePoint site, try to do this, and that.
Yeah. We know some of the issues that they had, and actually we had input on the last version of SharePoint to help them get rid of some of the issues where it always forced you to have this directory called Pages, and it was always a capital P.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, so they know to get rid of those things, and so we're there. That's the great thing about Microsoft is not only can we help optimize websites, but we can help incorporate SEO into the products that we're building. Which is great.
So is there exchange between you and the Bing team? I mean, not in terms of rank me better for this keyword, but how would you interpret a website that does this, and that?
Yeah.
Is there an exchange like that going on? Or really, that seems to make sense if if you're influencing the products that make websites and you're influencing the websites, and probably it would also make sense to have a conversation with the search engine that's kind of there too.
So we've got Dwayne Forrester, who works. He was an SEO for North America at MSN, and then we've got Vincent Warren, who runs the Webmaster Tools, and he is one of the best SEOs I've ever met. He did SEO for Office, and then I think he went to Windows for a bit. So both of those guys are both SEOs. So they know. I mean, most of what they know, and they can help us with their best practice stuff. If someone goes to Bing and says, I need to rank for this keyword, Bing will say, well, you need to do these basic things that they would tell anybody they need to do, and then they would send them to me, and then I would deal with it. Now, we do use the Bing API for site search. A lot of our properties do. Some use FAST, but a lot of them use the Bing API. So if there are instances where they're missing a huge part of our site, we have them look into it, and they might say, well, you're blocking it in your robots.txt file. And then we know to open it up. But when it comes to what little detail-y things do we need to get, like a page 1 ranking, I don't even know what that is. Okay. I mean, it's probably links. The same as Google. Authority. You have to be an authority on a topic to rank.
Right. Thanks so much for your time for the interview.
My pleasure.
OM Report and Andre Alpa would like to thank you for your attention. You can get more episodes on www.omreport.com.